how to become like Christ or Buddha. Make your goals possible. It's the smaller goal that motivates you. You will be amazed by what happens. You just have to want it enough to never go back again. Like in baseball, I run to second base and score a run for my team. You also need to believe that the goals will come true. It's meant for you. Pasi Mati Calavi has been a member of the congregation and was excited to study the soul and relationship with God. Inspired by this, he wrote this easy-to-read book for all those who want to know more about their relationship with the soul and God. What is this man saying? Yes, he say that everyone can be the master if you want it, just believing and being. It's not unusual. It's possible. All you need to do is love. All you have to do is that you decide to choose is to follow your heart, because you know that in your heart you are goodness, grace, peace, joy, compassion, help, comforter, teacher, understanding, deepest wisdom, light, forgiveness, strength, courage, help in times of need, comforter in sorrow, comforter in problems, teacher in difficult times. You are the greatest wisdom, the greatest nourishment, the greatest peace, the greatest love. Remember to always be like this. It is the fastest and shortest way to enlightenment that you accept right now. So did Christ and Buddha. Now it is your turn. You haven't heard the call. It's as simple as this. And you will become a master. Enlightenment is a choice. All you need is love. Love is all you need. You can take time to meditate and calm down in the silence. If you love peace, the decision is easier to make. Next, we look at the soul's way of looking at life. The soul sees life differently. That is largely the cause of all the frustration and anxiety that a person feels throughout his life. Frustration and anxiety arise from not being able to hear your own soul. The soul strives towards the highest feeling of love. It is the aim and purpose of the soul. The soul strives towards feeling and experiences. The soul wants to experience itself through its own experience. The highest feeling is the feeling of oneness with all that is. It is the great return to the future to which the soul aspires. It is the perfect feeling of love. So to experience perfect love, the soul must experience every human emotion. The soul's job is of course to lead us to choose greatness, the best part of ourselves. It is a big task that takes many people time. For men to rush and say that something is wrong or bad or not enough, instead of blessing what they do not choose, instead of directly trying to harm what you do not choose. Attempting to destroy it, you attack. The things you disagree with, a place or thing, you condemn as wrong and thus directly reject the other side of the universe. There is a faster way, a shorter, faster way. It is that you immediately accept who you are. Remember who you are and you show it. So did Jesus, Buddha and Krishna. It's the Master's road. What I can do, you can do. However, you have not listened, you have chosen a much more difficult path. You say it is difficult to follow the path of Christ, Buddha and Krishna, to be a master, but I tell you it is much easier to accept it than to deny it. Have you ever even tried? I understand this is hard to accept, but what if this is the truth? No one has said this before, that's why it's so hard to accept. Imagine if you could actually hear this from God Himself. I have chosen you, I have liked you, you are chosen. Go ahead and make this happen. It's up to you, I won't force it, you are my beloved. All I want is to see your smile. This is not an order but a wish. I love you, I'm always with you, I've never turned my back on you and I won't. I hope you understand how precious, unique and dear you are to me. Maybe you'll understand when you remember who created you. I created you in my image, my likeness. Friendship with God is friendship through life and your own soul, friendship with other souls. Are these words familiar to you? Don't be afraid. I took this sentence as an example of the words of Christ, because you have nothing to fear as you read these pages. These writings will lead you to a wonderful love. When you know me at the cellular level, you will know who I am. You think you can't find me, the way to me is through the heart. My own opinion about the content of these writings, which have mostly inspired the Conversations with God I read and the other books published after that, is that they are love letters from God to us. In its brevity, I summarize the message of these pages as follows. Know who you are and what you are capable of. Our life is a repeating process, like a day is a marmot. When we understand, remember, who we are, we make our dreams come true. Come to the joy, just you. I won't force you to believe anything you don't want to. This is real good news. These are the true books of love. God always gives you the best, even if you don't always know it. My dear ones, I want to give you information that has the opportunity to increase understanding and get rid of negations, i.e., free yourself from narrow-minded views by moving from the subconscious level to the growth of consciousness, the so-called to the level of superconsciousness. You sit on your hands without crossing a stick in front of your highest good. I don't blame you because you haven't had a chance to hear the truth, the whole truth before. You blame some external person or cause when you can't get out of the tree for a long time. Can't you see a repeating pattern here? Note, I'm always with you. I'm always ready. I will not force you to your will. It is against my will, and the surest sign of love. Awareness electrifies, acts electronically. God has given us all wealth. He created our world for 5 billion years to be the perfect place for us to live. Clean air, beautiful surroundings, lots of food and drink. We are often so unhappy because we think we don't have enough. Even though God gave us this wonderful, beautiful paradise where there is an abundance of everything wonderful for everyone, it is still the same paradise as when Adam and Eve were. We can complain about so many things, but we can make a choice not to complain and look at the magnificence that is around us, e.g., every breath is given to us. Here is exactly the same thing. Because God gave us all this wealth, and we no longer see the value of it because it has always been there, and it no longer seems enough, we are a burden to all this greatness. If we were grateful for everything, we could notice that our feelings become more pleasant and we could even notice a smile on our face. We are always connected to everything, those I meet, with whom I live, etc., as well as nature, plants, animals, the world, the universe, etc. How does it feel? A familiar question for sports heroes. God says this: when you fully understand that you are the cause of events, you step beyond illusions, you experience it in the body at the cellular level, when you experience oneness with God. The cellular level is a chemical cocktail happening in the brain, just like falling in love. You are in love with the Creator, Almighty Source of love. You have this intoxicating feeling, which is a joyful experience. Illusions are all those claims and experiences that are not love, peace, joy, harmony. Ego is a thought and feeling system based on fear. Ego takes in so sensitively, defends and attacks, holds grudges and gets angry. Classifies, separates, weighs. I would say that with the ego we are in trouble and in the grip of various negative emotions. Fear is the opposite of love, so I can say that ego is the opposite of love. There is no fear in love, but peace, joy, satisfaction, happiness. No wonder we are told to live in the Holy Spirit, i.e., to pack in our lunchbox the daily snacks that make us strong, i.e., you decide in advance that your inner state is calm and loving, understanding and compassionate, sympathetic and forgiving. With these snacks, the outside world will lose its grip on you, regardless of what the day brings when coming. Others will not persuade you to behave as they do. One good way when you notice that the world of thoughts and feelings is floundering in negations is to say out loud, even in a whisper, that, I feel love at the cellular level. Repeat this hundreds of times and you will notice a smile on your lips and your mind lightened. God Himself says that when you know Him at the cellular level, you know Him completely. Knowing does not make you pious, experience is comprehensive knowing. Knowing the cellular level raised the question of what it means. The answer I got was the feelings that start at the brain's cellular level with the production of endorphins and melatonin and other hormones. The so-called love is a cocktail, with the legal drugs of the Holy Spirit. Feelings of joy, contentment, happiness are produced. The best thing is that we all have these drugs behind us. We just need to activate these feelings and we get to enjoy them for free. We don't have to go anywhere physically. A place is a mental space. It is difficult to understand what the kingdom of heaven is within you really means. This is because it is incomprehensible to the ego, which interprets it as if something outside is inside, and this means nothing. The word inside is unnecessary. The kingdom of heaven is you. What but you that the Creator created, and what but you is His kingdom? This is the whole message of the atonement, a message that as a whole exceeds the sum of its parts. You too have a kingdom that your spirit created. It has not stopped creating ego because of illusions. Your creations are no more fatherless than you. Your ego and your spirit will never be co-creators, but your spirit and your creator always will be. Trust that your creations are as safe as you are. The illusion of the ego is a selfish life based on fear. Such is a lie because we live in perfect love. In order to experience perfect love, we must let go of the fear that the ego creates. In other words, feelings of fear are not real because only perfect love is real. Fear is a state that does not exist. Believe this and you are free. As you can see, the thing is not new, but it has also been made into pop songs and the message is love. I can say that I love the Creator and the creatures. I know this is theoretical and very beautiful and idealistic, but if these thoughts remain just good stories that have no basis in reality, these thoughts will gather dust. God says in Conversations with God chapter 2 that He loves and keeps our choices as His own. And with the same appeal of the Spirit, He asks us if we love and keep His will as our own. Here is the Master's clear answer and will. The Master loves and holds God's will as His own. You can read about God's will on these pages. God says that He can also be called love, freedom and joy. God's love is unconditional and absolute. He gave us free will to do what we want, complete freedom. Greater love cannot be shown. He demands nothing from us. It is difficult for us to experience it if we are not aware of it. The absolute is consciousness, not experiential, so you have to trust it. We gain absolute consciousness upon death. Absolute awareness of love has the shortcoming that we don't experience it, we just know it. Because God's love is absolute and we have lived in it all these years, it has become self-evident and we have become numb to it. If we had missed it, we would miss it, but when you realize this, you can be grateful for what was self-evident to us. Indeed, many prophets and righteous people have wanted to see what you see, and have not seen, and heard what you hear, and have not heard. How would the idea of spending time with God sound? I know, the thought may seem far-fetched and unbelievable, but as you can see, the word unbelievable includes the word faith, which is necessary for you to believe these words. God is not far from us, He speaks to us all the time. It's not that God speaks to us, but whether we listen to Him. Someone else may think that these writings are some kind of hypnotism and manipulation. But I tell you, even if it is, these things are more important than life. If our attitude and values don't change, shit still happens all the time, over and over again. That is, shit happens all the time, over and over again. Does that make sense? Can't we learn from it? What is really wrong with us? Read these writings and think if these are true for you and if they would make sense and if they could be a bridge to a conscious life. And fulfills the promises that are promised in these writings. By finding out, the trip can become meaningful. T. mentalcoach.omasavu.fi. Dr. Tal talks about the change that is inevitable and that is in front of us if and when we want to survive on this planet. The ego of religions, that is, the soap based on thoughts, has been ground for so long that we are ripe to see the pain and shit it has caused to the planet and humanity. In his book, Tal invites us to a higher state of consciousness in understandable words. Here the understanding of all the wise is repeated that we are one, what I do to another I do to myself. After all, we have always mirrored ourselves according to the reactions of others. In simplicity, Tal basically tells about the ego's way of reacting and controlling our mind, our feelings, our reactions. The ego easily absorbs and defends itself by attacking. There are other ways to react, e.g., cowering and feelings of inferiority. So the ego controls our mind because we live unconsciously under its control. As soon as we become aware that the ego is not the same as what we are the one who senses the ego's way of acting and reacting. When we are conscious, we have the opportunity to observe the actions of the ego and act differently, e.g., by being silent and not acting according to the ego's suggestions. I'm sure if you stay silent when the ego suggests attack, defense, name calling, violence, you'll find that it pays off in the long run as well. You will not be labeled as crazy, and you will not be discriminated against, but you will be considered a reliable and good guy. You surely remember Pavlov's conditioning dog experiments. Me and our egos are like Pavlov's dogs. Our use is conditioned by examples. Our ego gets hurt and reacts according to the pattern of conditioning. It annoys me when I get criticism even though I've done my best. Someone said to me, if you had done your best you wouldn't be criticized. But everyone is doing the best they can at that moment. However, it is good to notice your conditioning and be grateful for being aware of it and see the bigger picture. We are love, joy and peace. It is made possible by understanding and forgiveness. This is more important than being right and this is the thing to focus on. Is it that simple? Because you have no choice but to think this over again, new thoughts, new thinking. Isn't this all madness? Nothing is as stupid as the ego. Because we do see that there is no peace in the world hunger has not been solved, pharmaceutical companies price essential medicines at outrageous prices. The homeless are still allowed to live on the streets and in the slums, as if they don't have the same humanity, the same feelings. As a nation, we put money into weapons, but we don't help those in real need. We are ready to kill and consider it acceptable, and we don't think about how the relatives of a dead soldier or civilian feel the grief and senselessness. Isn't this all madness? We see and know all this, but we don't care, because the ego is completely indifferent to the distress and need of others, but sensitive to take it upon itself. These pages talk a lot about God. You can change God's name to life and forget the word God if it bothers you. Note: whoever loves life wants it to continue and does everything to make it continue. God equals life equals joy equals love equals peace. Our friend who art in heaven. This message is intended for those who are not satisfied with their own life and or with this world as it is. As long as you say you already know me, you will not find me. You cannot find me in your mind, I am in your heart. You have this choice every minute. You can be either a friend to God or a hostage to your ego. I have a hard time understanding how our minds work. It likes to cling to what is familiar and to it's so safe, even if it is not exactly what we want. Our mind does not have sufficient knowledge and know how to influence our thoughts and actions. We have similar feelings every day, but we don't know how to find solutions. I remember the old saying that if something doesn't work out, it's necessary to do something. But this obviously requires effort. Is it so much easier not to think about things and sit on the sofa and turn on the TV? But if you bother to think and look for solutions, then you can find wonderful things. I'm powerless. If you don't want better, believe that you make it real. It's up to you, what you create in your life. Most of us are scared and think this is crazy, but if you try, you will find something great. You won't lose anything in this experiment. Let this be the last straw. Master Jesus said that like children is the kingdom of God. I think childlikeness equals naivete. Gullible, blue-eyed, gullible, childish, sincere, natural, honest. I don't know if these qualities are required, but there is hardly any harm in knowing God. When I think about the likeness of children, their main characteristic is the joy of life. We adults can have doubt, cynicism, fears, insecurity, etc., as our main characteristic. If you compare the two, which one feels lighter? Childlike people feel gratitude towards life. It is an important quality with which they maintain their joy in life. Your new belief, recreate yourself as a bigger version of the bigger vision you've ever had of yourself. Now is the time to move away from believing what some others have said is true, towards what is real. It is not easy, because the ultimate reality is quite different from what many in your world generally consider to be real. You must literally be, in this world, but not of this world. We have two options. An operating model based on fear, the one we have grown up with, or an operating model based on love, the one you choose and get to experience yourself in all its splendor and which also gives you worldly well-being. Enlightenment. The moments spent in silence when you realize that you are not demanding of yourself or you are not required to do anything. Then the failure also goes away. You hear your breath and connect with your soul. Feelings of happiness come when thinking about these. There are no demands on you. You can just be. God recommends this kind of being in the mornings and evenings for about 15 minutes twice a day. You get off the squirrel wheel for a while, and when you get back to it, you don't feel any pressure anymore. Things just go under their own weight. Future prediction. People's beliefs are so strict. Yes, I know what is right and what is wrong, etc. Only by listening, searching inside your heart in silence can you find yourself, and not what we have heard, attitudes, judgment, etc., from which we have formed our opinion. Today, if someone knows how to get peace and happiness, people don't find it necessary because of their beliefs and live the same drama, and nothing gets better in their lives, not in this world. In reality, things don't get better, they get worse. That's why it's time to look inward. First read juman.omasavu.fi and face the humanity team, and you'll get new ideas to change your life and the world through you. It's time to stop creating pain and destruction in the world. Either we stop at killing, violence both physical and verbal, or we create the ultimate horror that will end life on Earth. A choice must be made. We're not going to let that horror scenario happen, are we? Of course you think you don't act like that, fine. But you can be one of those who change the lives of others with your own example, and when there are more and more people like you, those who used to harm others will also change, and thus life and the world will be saved. The purpose of these writings is to give an understanding that our old way of living and thinking has come to an end. It remains to be seen what we have accomplished with them. Life in our world makes death. Some species have become extinct. We are at risk of the same happening as living conditions deteriorate. The problems in the world stem from our beliefs. That is why many do not believe in these writings. We prefer to believe in our beliefs, the consequences of which we suffer, etc. of terror, destruction, cruelty, sorrow, suffering, oppression, rage, anger, conflict, warfare, killing. Unbelievable that we act like that, we treat each other like that. Still, we'd rather believe what can't be believed than start acting differently. There must be some other way. And we can create a greater version of ourselves as individuals and the human race, or we can destroy it once and for all. The problems stem from beliefs. These pages talk a lot about God. You can change God's name to life and forget the word God if it bothers you. Note: whoever loves life wants it to continue and does everything to make it continue. Doing everything is adopting new beliefs and habits, attitudes. One of them is that we are one. What I do or fail to do to another, I do or fail to do to myself. At the end of the day, I either prefer the continuation of life or its destruction. We should turn our short-term desires into longer-term goals. If we continue to destroy rainforests, for the production of palm oil, as a raw material for the food and oil refining industry, we do not look beyond our noses to see what will happen in the future when we upset the balance of the world, with short-sighted benefits brought by production. Money seems to be behind the decisions. I would be so grateful if we understood that money is not the source of happiness and peace. It makes life easier, but peace and happiness are internal things. Money and matter are external things. They are not eternal. We are eternal and infinite. Eternal is not this body or mind, but our soul is, and in this infinite our souls are one. Life is in each of us. We are this life. Let's live so that we love it and we want it to continue, so that we continue to experience wonderful decades like 1970, 1980, 1990. 2000, 2010, 2020 have been our happy years. But now we realize in 2022 that not all our actions were life-preserving. Now is the time to change our direction and our ways. That we don't make our lives impossible to continue and that leads us to extinction. By loving life, we want to preserve it, not destroy it. By loving life, we don't want to fight and take life from anyone, because then we kill our chance to live our lives happily and peacefully. It's time to open our eyes before it is too late. Now is the time for an update on knowing God. Choose the God of tomorrow. It is a misunderstanding of yesterday's God. And the result is what happens in the world. Tomorrow's God will correct these misconceptions. It's about what makes God happy. Before, it was thought that God should be obeyed and pleased. Otherwise, you are doing wrong, that is, sin, and the wages of sin is death. Now God says this: I do not demand anything from you. I am not without anything from you. I have absolutely everything. I am the beginning and the end. I don't need anything. I don't need to please. Find out what else the God of tomorrow has to say. The question is, do you want to be friends with God? What's in it for me? How will friendship with God change my life? Why is that a good thing? I will try to give you the answers to these questions on this site. Now, at the beginning of the new millennium, I speak to you with one voice so that we can experience oneness. If you want to choose the experience of oneness with God, you may finally feel peace, boundless joy, of perfectly expressed love and complete freedom. If you choose this truth, you will change your world. If you choose this reality, create it, and ultimately fully experience who you really are. These pages are being updated. Visit to see what new publications have been created and added to the texts. The soul's way of looking at life. The soul sees life differently. That is largely the cause of all the frustration and anxiety that a person feels throughout his life. Frustration and anxiety arise from not being able to hear your own soul. The soul strives towards the highest feeling of love. It is the aim and purpose of the soul. The soul strives towards feeling and experiences. The soul wants to experience itself through its own experience. The highest feeling is the feeling of oneness with all that is. It is the great return to the future to which the soul aspires. It is the perfect feeling of love. So to experience perfect love, the soul must experience every human emotion. The soul's job is of course to lead us to choose greatness, the best part of ourselves. It is a big task that takes many people time. For men to rush and say that something is wrong or bad or not enough, instead of blessing what they do not choose, instead of directly trying to harm what you do not choose. Attempting to destroy it, you attack. The things you disagree with, a place or thing, you condemn as wrong and thus directly reject the other side of the universe. There is a faster way, a shorter, faster way. It is that you immediately accept who you are. Remember who you are. And you show it. So did Jesus, Buddha and Krishna. It's the Master's road. What I can do, you can do. However, you have not listened. You have chosen a much more difficult path. You claim that it is difficult to follow the path of Christ, Buddha and Krishna, to be a master. But I tell you, it is much easier to accept it than to deny it. From the book Friendship with God. A lot of people don't even consider me a friend. That's the sad part of it. Many people think of me as a parent, not a friend. On top of that, a harsh, cruel, demanding, angry parent. As a father who absolutely does not tolerate any kind of neglect in any area, like, for example, in my worship. According to these people, I not only demand your worship, but I demand a certain kind of worship. You must come to me a certain way. If you happen to come to me another way, any other way, I will reject your love, ignore your pleas, and in fact condemn you to hell. Half of the population of our planet has the same problem, and mostly for the same reason. They see God as some kind of parent. They imagine that I am just like their mother or father. I will say one thing though, if you think of me as older, you're in for one hell of a time. If we were not allowed to think of God as a parent, we should think of you as our friend who is in heaven. So what do you say? Do you want to be friends with God? I am ready for a fully functioning friendship with you. Great. It will work. Thus the whole human race can be friends with God. You don't know me intimately yet. More is needed for that. You get to know me better by being open. You have to be genuinely open. You must be willing to see me where you find me, not just where you expect to find me. You must see me where you can find me, and find me where you can see me. Many people see me but cannot find me. It's like a cosmic game of, where's Waldo? They look right at me, but they can't find me. So how do we identify you? Recognizing is like re-knowing. In other words, knowing again. You have to get to know me again. You have to believe that I exist. Faith precedes charity as a means of knowing God. You must believe that there is a God that can be known. How do I get to a state of bliss? You're already there, otherwise you wouldn't be wasting your time on this site. Now expand this experience. Open up to new ideas about me, new possibilities. As if I were your best friend and not your father, think of what you could tell me, what you could ask me. In order to know God, you must be ready, willing, and able. Faith in God is just the beginning. Your belief in some higher power, some kind of divinity, makes you ready. Next, your openness to certain new thoughts about God, thoughts that have never crossed your mind before, thoughts that might even shake you up a bit, like, our friend who art in heaven, is a sign that you are open. Finally, you must be able. If you absolutely cannot see God in any of the new ways you have opened up for yourself, you have completely disabled the mechanism by which you could truly know God. You must be able to receive a God who loves you and is ready to receive you unconditionally, able to welcome into your life a God who welcomes you into his kingdom without question, to be able to stop punishing yourself and to admit that there is a God who does not punish you, and to be able to talk to a God who has never stopped talking to you. All these ideas are radical. The churches consider these to be heresies. And so, most ironically, you may have to leave the church to know God. You will undoubtedly have to reject at least some of the church's teachings. Because the denominations teach you about God, whom according to them you cannot know and whom you would not choose as your friend. For would you like a friend who punishes you for every wrong you do? And what kind of friend would consider the mere act of being called the wrong name as an act of harm? A loving or cruel God? I remember when I told my friend that Helsinki has the most beautiful church in Finland, called Tuomiokirkko. The guy said with a quizzical grin, "Cathedral." I think this describes well my friend's thoughts about God and, on the other hand, the name of the church about the God that we have been taught about him. He is a judgmental, harsh God who condemns us to hell or heaven based on our deeds. Faith is needed. Of course, what God says depends on the reader's own faith. Even Jesus said about doubters that their faith cannot move mountains. But if you believe, you can really hear God's voice and what he wants to tell us. Love is to accept even what is hard for us to accept, to believe. Isn't that interesting? To think that you have a friendship with God whenever you want to spend time with him and hear what he wants to say, you always have the opportunity to do so, at least with these books. God says in his books that we don't necessarily need books or notebooks. For he is not far from us, for he lives through us. Of course, I also have to rely on the scriptures because I have lived until my middle age in this world and with these doctrines of faith that I have learned from God as a Lutheran. Friendship with God opens the eyes to see what I have wondered before, how the God of love can be cruel, if he is perfect love, perfect as unconditional love. Conversations with God in book number 1. God himself says, "This cruel God is a description of a neurotic God to whom you have given human characteristics," and in the new book of Revelation God says that he has been made a dictator. Friendship with God. The purpose of this site is to create friendship with God's treasury, and teaches that we have misunderstood him completely. Well, now someone says that Satan himself weaves a cunning plot in order to mislead as many as possible into God's damnation. Do you realize how sick this teaching of Christianity is? We do nothing or we do something, to hell we go. However, it is comforting and reassuring to read or hear that God is a God of love. Intimidation was written in the Bible so that the church could rule people with fear. The church used power, and when you look at the witch persecutions of the church and their burnings, religious wars or boys used by priests, you can only say that God had nothing to do behind these things, but it was the result of people's power and ignorance. If you don't know God, his love is like a blind charmer. And when we ask why God doesn't do anything about wars, famines, mass deaths, violence, rapes, the answer is the same: because of our own actions. God is a God of love, and love is to accept even what we do. Think how much love he has when he is able to love every wrongdoer. A mother's love is close to this. A mother's love is changing the child's diapers at night, nursing and humming a lullaby, and being satisfied and happy when she is able to hold her child in her arms. Yes, a mother always wants the best for her children, and even if the child chooses a path that does not show control over life, she does not reject her child but always hopes for the best for him. It's the same with God. He doesn't interfere with what we do, otherwise we wouldn't have free will. However, God wants us to manage our lives well and for them to produce joy, peace and love. Rather, we live in drama. God says that it's okay if you like drama, so be it, but if you're tired of it and don't like it anymore, then He has something nicer and bigger to offer. He doesn't ask you to do any forced labor, or to be a slave, etc. He just wants to be friends with you and tell you how you can experience love, joy, gratitude, peace, happiness. Let's see what God says about joy. Before I continue, I have to lighten the mood, because we have been told that God is a harsh and cruel God. But we haven't heard that God has invented humor, laughter, and joy. This revolutionizes everything we know about God. People have the idea that God is never playful, that He doesn't know how to laugh, and that everything must be kept very sacred as divinity. I hope you all lighten it up a bit, laugh at yourselves. You grow up the day you laugh sweetly at yourself. Don't take yourself seriously. Give yourself some leeway. And you can give each other a little leeway too. Totally happy, above all else. The first of God's 5 attitudes makes everything possible, joy. Without joy there is nothing. God says that without humor there is no meaning in life, laughter is the best medicine. He says joy is good for the soul. And He goes even further. Joy is the soul is what you call joy, pure joy, endless joy, genuine and boundless joy, infinite joy. It is the nature of the soul, freedom is the innermost essence of God. A smile is a window to the soul, laughter is a door. God's speech. Now, at the beginning of the new millennium, I speak to you with one voice so that we can experience oneness. If you choose to experience oneness with God, you can finally feel peace, boundless joy, perfectly expressed love, and complete freedom. If you choose this truth, you will change your world. If you choose this reality, you create it and finally fully experience who you really are. It's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life and the easiest thing you'll ever do. It's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life because you have to deny who you think you are and stop denying me. It's the easiest thing you'll ever do because you don't have to do anything. You just have to be, and you don't have to be anything but me. It's not an effort of will either, it's just consent. It doesn't require doing, it requires letting in. I've been chasing admission forever. When you agree to let me in, you allow me to come into your life. You admit that you and I are one. It's your ticket to heaven. It says, entry for one. When I get to enter your hearts, you get to heaven. Your heaven can be on earth. Everything can really be, both on earth and in heaven, when the time of separation is over and the time of union comes. It means merging with me and everyone else, every single living being. Of creation. We have been taught a passive role as Christians, that God created the heavens, the moon and the earth. Those who live on earth, live in the water and on the earth, and it took about 7 days and then the God rested, it became a holy day. Like we don't have to do anything. That's right, in any case we get to God. But the calling is to live a full life here. Remember who you are. You are God's creation, God's friend, God is your friend, because He is in you, and lives through you. God says that the early people described those events with the understanding and words they had at their disposal. We have been taught that the first people were Adam and Eve and that the apple offered by Eve was the fall into sin, and therefore the woman has been branded a traitor on her forehead. In the book Conversations with God says that of course they were not the only people on earth when this happened and that it was not a fall into sin, but a rise in the level of consciousness, a leap from ignorance, to understanding the opposite of love and love. Without crying, you don't know what laughter is, if there is only absolute loveliness that just goes on but there is no state to compare it to, you experience nothing but being. I am now writing about another work. After reading it I noticed similarities with the texts of KJK books. The author also talks about the soul, higher consciousness, Joy, illusion, creation. Illusions. The outside world responsible for our emotions. External success can make you happy. How to get what you want and want what you have. John Gray. The secret to personal success is to be in constant touch with your own inner peace, joy, love, and trust. Life goes in cycles, we can always create again. We must leave material success and take personal inner success. Gratitude for what I have, as well as confidence that I will stay to acquire more if necessary, form a great magnet that attracts success to life. Love in your heart will keep you mentally young and healthy. When you approach life lovingly and calmly on an emotional level, you manage to free yourself from fear and anger, giving up the things of the external world. It liberates in a great way. Is something that cannot be had. Own something that can be lost. Without a certain thing you cannot be happy. These banish fear and anger from the book In the Age of Wonders, Robert Holden. Oh well. More about creation. The elements of creation: will, feeling, and faith in the thing you want. Passion, belief, and willpower are power. In addition, you need a consistent orientation, your feelings and actions to what you want, and so the world bends to your will. Goal orientation requires time and guts, but above all passion. What is important is not what you do, but what you want, what you feel, and what you believe. That is, real will, confidence that you will get what you want, strong will, and faith. It's easy to be happy. The less he imposes conditions on his life, the greater the chance of being happy. Letting go of the past. When we free ourselves from the negations of the past, we gain peace, strength, and the joy of creation. Actively thinking about positive things helps us believe that we can achieve our goals. Success is a positive and clear aspiration when you passionately want it. You believe you will get it, you focus all your attention on it, you get the strength to realize your dreams, you live the life that is meant for you. Thoughts, beliefs, words, actions, freedom of choice. Life is exactly what you decide to experience. When we choose how we think, feel, and live inside, we also choose our external way of living. The internal climate affects and changes the external one. The skill of living right is like any skill, it must be learned and practiced endlessly. You have woken up to notice the possibilities within. Curiosity, enthusiasm, interest, enigmaticness, are consciously creative means by which resources, energies, imagination, and ideas are unleashed. The more you invest, the more you get. Awakening yourself fully awake, allowing you to use your creative powers. In every moment there is magic just waiting to emerge. Our self-image, our beliefs, our state of mind, the way we communicate with ourselves and the world are most affected in our lives. Dreaming is the foundation of creative imagination. Every moment we shape our own reality, every moment is a creative moment. Dreaming is the foundation of creative imagination. Wonder, curiosity, and enchantment help provide an inner treasure chest. You create your own happy and unhappy moments in your life. The ability to wonder is the starting point of all knowledge and inspiration. It leads to knowledge and understanding, awareness. Wondering tunes us to the same wavelength with our true selves and the world around us. Generates wealth all by itself. Our ego consciousness expands into a wonderful collective or cosmic consciousness, where we realize our own true connection with the other manifestations of life in creation. Do you love your life? In 1, God talks about the fact that if you smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol, you don't love your life very much. The reason for this kind of behavior can be the reason for sadness or boredom in life, which can be caused by thoughts about what you don't have. You can be sad about it for the rest of your life. You can even fall into drugs to numb the pain of deprivation. All this is a product of your own thoughts. When you make friends with God, you can enjoy wonderful feelings alone, with Him, and nothing else is needed. Substance use and grieving can take your life. A product of your thoughts. Everything is only temporary. Although at that very moment the pain can seem endless. But when you actually look at your life, you realize that it was only temporary. The direction your life takes depends on your thoughts. If you have had enough of your current life and are looking for a new kind of life, look no further. Summon it right now. First, find your highest thought about yourself. Imagine what you would be like if you lived that thought every day. Imagine what you would think, do and say, and how you would respond to what others do and say. Do you see any difference between that thought and your current thoughts, actions and words? Yes, I see a big difference. Good. It should be, because we know that you are by no means living the highest possible vision of yourself. Now that you see the difference between what you are and what you want to be, start consciously changing your thoughts, words and actions so that they match your big vision. It requires immense mental and physical effort. It means constantly watching your every thought, word and deed. Conscious choices must be made without feeling emotional. The whole process means a revolutionary transition to consciousness. If you accept this challenge, you may find that you have spent half of your life without realizing anything. You have not been aware of your choices in thoughts, words and actions until you have experienced their consequences. When you start suffering the consequences, you claim that your thoughts, words, and actions had nothing to do with them. This is a call to end unconscious life. This is a challenge your soul has been offering you since the beginning of time. Such constant mental vigilance seems terribly exhausting. Maybe it is, until it becomes your second nature, and you do it happily, because you long for a change in your life, you want to laugh, cry, love, find peace again. In fact, it's already your second nature. Your first nature is to love unconditionally. Your second nature is deciding that you want to consciously express your first, true nature. I'm sorry, but isn't that kind of constant monitoring of thoughts, words and actions rather boring? Never. Different, yes, but not boring. Was Jesus boring? I wouldn't say so. Was Buddha boring company? People gathered around him and prayed to be near him. A master is never boring. Unusual and special, but never boring. Do you want your life to speed up? Immediately start imagining what you want it to be like and then make it happen. Be careful to stay away from all thoughts, words, and actions that are not in harmony with it. When a thought does not align with your highest vision, change the thought immediately. When you say something that doesn't agree with your biggest thoughts, make a mental note not to say anything like that again. When you do something that doesn't align best with your intentions, decide that it was the last time you'll do it. And try your best to make amends. The first thing to do is try to understand the fact that no situation is good or bad in the universe. It just is. Stop posting reviews. Second, you have to know that everything is temporary. Nothing stays the same and unchanged. The direction in which things change depends on you. Life on Track, Conversations with God. From Conversations with God, book number 1. It's about how to get your life back on track. How would it get up to speed? I'm talking about the creative process. That's how I was interrupted all the time. It's okay, but let's get back to the point. We don't want to stray from such an important question. Life is about creating, not finding. You don't live each day to find out what it offers you, just to create it. You are creating your reality every moment, probably without even realizing it. Now I will explain why it is and how it happens. 1. Have created you in the image and likeness of God. 2. God is the creator. 3. You are 3 things together. You can call them what you want. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, mind, body and soul, or superconsciousness, consciousness and subconsciousness. For creation is a process that starts from these three components. In other words, creation takes place on three levels. The tools of creation are thought, words, and action. 5. All creation begins with a thought, then all creation becomes a word, all creation finds fulfillment in actions. 6. What you think but then never talk about is creation on one level. Thinking and speaking is creation on another level. What you think, say, and do will come true in reality. 7. It is impossible to think of speaking and doing something that you do not seriously believe in. Therefore, the process of creation necessarily includes believing and knowing. It is absolute belief, it extends beyond hope and means certain knowledge. Therefore, creation at the level of action needs knowledge, fundamental clarity, complete certainty, the unconditional acceptance of something as reality. 8. This place of knowing is a place of intense and incredible gratitude. It is gratitude shown in advance. That is perhaps the most important key to creating. You have to be grateful for creating in advance. Such taking for granted is not only tolerated but encouraged. That's a sure sign of a master. All masters know in advance that the deed has already been done. 9. Enjoy everything you create and have created. If you reject a part of it, you reject a part of yourself. Acknowledge all your creations, bless them and be grateful for them, but in no case judge, because then you are also judging yourself. 10. If there is something in creation that you do not enjoy, bless it and change it. Make a new selection. Call forth a new reality. Think a new thought. Say a new word. Do another act. Do everything in a great way and the whole world will follow you. Invite it along. Urge it to do so. Say, I am the life and the way to follow me. In that way, it fulfills God's will, also on earth as it is in heaven. Life, God's treasury, is a cooperation and aid agreement. More about the illusion. An illusion is something we believe to be true because no one has proven otherwise. We are so under illusion, we can't see anything else. But if we think that God is our friend and we have all the power to create our life exactly as we really want it to be, desire is a dangerously passive word, and that we don't need anything other than what we have in order to be happy, and even if we lose everything, I would still be happy because I have no need, because need is the first and greatest illusion. There is a need for something or to get something. If and when this need is removed, what remains is peace, because no need can force us to do anything. When you realize that you can get along without and don't mind the things of the external world, it frees you in a great way from fear and anger. Illusion is an existing need, it is the first mistake. The need does not exist, it is an invented concept. In reality, you don't need anything to be happy. Happiness is a state of mind, you don't need anything outside yourself, people, places, objects, to be happy. True happiness is found inside a person, you are sufficient in yourself. You are deeply connected to all of life. You are deeply one with all people. You are never separated from God. You live in a world of great abundance, everything is enough for everyone. You get the most by giving, not by collecting for yourself. You have created the idea of need based on your own experience, you don't need anything to survive. You imagine you need something to be happy. You can only be happy under certain circumstances. You have believed so, it produces an experience. That's not true. When you know that, you are like God. Your entire reality will change. Happiness does not arise as a result of certain circumstances. Certain circumstances arise as a result of happiness. As a result of love, the conditions of love arise. Abundance creates conditions of abundance. You have not understood this. You imagine that certain things must happen before you can be happy. God is not greater than you, God is what you are. You are what God is. You are bigger than you think you are. Champions know it. Nothing makes a champion unhappy. Strengthening self-image. You can strengthen your self-image. It feel good to read about the Roberts Holden book. It's named At the Time of Miracles. He says, look at yourself, not only with the eyes of the physical but also with the eyes of the mind, spirit and soul. Look with your whole being, and you will see all your resources. You are a living manifestation of your self-image. How you choose to see yourself affects how you choose to live. Health, happiness, love and laughter can all come true in your life, as long as you are able to see that you have full right and ability to them and that you are worth it all. If you don't believe in their fulfillment in your own life, they probably won't come true either. That's how great the power of self-image is a person's perception of himself that he carries deep in his heart. A person with an intact self-image feels whole, while a fragmented self-image can feel like they are about to collapse. You are a seer, a clairvoyant, and your image of me is pretty much a true self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-image is a very creative tool that you can use to understand your inner strength and, by extension, your great possibilities. Your possibilities are only as great as they seem. In other words, you can achieve what you can see. So if you see yourself as discouraged, you have been discouraged by your own image of yourself as such. But when you see yourself as a winner, your self-image is able to befriend you and help you. In order to become happier, we must first be willing to see that deeper happiness is indeed possible to experience. To experience a more loving relationship, we must first imagine in our mind that we are capable of giving and receiving more love. In order to succeed even better, we must first see in our mind that better success is possible for us. In other words, the image of ourselves specifically determines how we act and what kind of result we reach, after deciding to strive towards some goal. Daily nurturing of a healthy and ever-evolving self-image is an absolute prerequisite for a great life. With the help of our image, we are able to see our existing possibilities to grow as a person, to develop spiritually and to realize ourselves. It also enables us to create new opportunities. An open self-image is an essential part of your own spiritual growth toolkit. Your self-image can equip you with the necessary beliefs, values and insights and thus help you realize your imagination and dreams. Perhaps the best self-image is to see oneself as a spark of the creative power of the universe's intelligence. Reserve a day for yourself when you try to see yourself as the possessor of these universal creative powers. Believe that your feelings, actions, experiences and interactions with others will greatly enrich and reward you. It's just about how you see yourself. Change your old self-image and over time you will find that you can fulfill yourself in a new way. Simplicity is bliss, peace, joy, love, happiness, contentment. Encountering God, ultimate knowledge, deep understanding, endless compassion, complete awareness, feeling of absolute fulfillment equals the path to soul development. You cannot do this. It is a worldly and bodily activity. If you think your life is all about doing, you don't understand who you are. Find joy, find joy. The best way to experience something is to do nothing. Anger is the most harmful state. Sorrows, anger, fear equals anxiety, bitterness, impatience, bitterness, unkindness. Also selfishness, complacency, greed, causing damage at the cellular level and loss of good feeling. It all starts with thoughts. Choose love, choose success. Find joy, love your work, what you do and why you do it. Your will is to experience love. Frustration and anxiety arise from not listening to your heart and feelings. Do what you love and what is your passion. Don't do anything else. Enjoy your life. Find out your heart's desire and follow it. You want more than to know, you want to experience it. In reality, we are goodness, mercy, compassion, understanding, peace, joy, light, forgiveness, patience, strength, courage, help in times of need, comforter in times of turmoil, deepest wisdom, highest truth, greatest peace. You are all this. Make the choice to always experience this. You are exactly what you think. Make your life a masterpiece. You become what you think of yourself. Allow yourself all the wonderfulness, peace, love, and you may find that it has more to offer than you could imagine. You are what you experience what you express what you allow yourself to express. Awareness is the key to everything. Feeling good is the soul's way of saying, here I am. Do what feels good, the way to heaven. The more you bring pleasure to yourself, the more you bring pleasure to others. Walk through in peace, joy, and wisdom. Consciousness creates experiences. Allow yourself to attract all possible events and experiences. Life is an opportunity through which you remember that you are worthy. I am another part of you and always at your disposal. I send messages through your intuition. I'll tell you where to go. If you just listen, your faith in me activates me to hear the messages. Is it okay if I put you in touch with your unseen abilities? For a task that is easy for you, that is comfortable and that you see as reasonable. Is it okay if you are in the right place at the right time? Are you meeting the right people? You see, you can't plan this in advance, you have to tune into it. Throw yourself to be carried away and listen to me. You don't stay home and sit, but you walk the path I'm leading. Your soul speaks through your body, which gives you a here and now experience of your truth. If you want to know the truth about anything, turn to your emotions. It happens faster by putting your body into play. I understand. I call it the stomach test. As the old saying goes, the stomach knows. And that's right. Your stomach actually provides you with a very good barometer. So if you want to get in touch with the people of what your soul knows about the future, including the possibilities of your future God experience, listen to what your body is telling you right now. Your soul knows everything, past, present, future. It knows who you are and who you aspire to be. It knows me intimately because that part of me is closest to you. 10 Commandments. The stone tablets brought by Moses from Mount Sinai have become familiar to us as the 10 Commandments, which were learned by heart at the seminary camp. God gives a new radical idea to this too. The 10 Commandments were not commands at all, but commitments from God to us. 10 Signs of the Covenant. Find inner happiness. You feel that you don't need anything from outside of yourself and you stop needing anything and you can finally love truly. Stop all doing and all thinking. Be just a moment, one moment. E.g. in the evening and in the morning. God calls us home. It's the easiest thing you've done and the hardest thing you'll ever do. You must deny everything you have learned about God. You must see that a life based on need is an illusion. I've lived a need-based life for about 30 years and about 30 years since I last experienced perfect love. Now it's time to return home. I haven't accomplished anything so great and wonderful. I miss home already. My father is making me tired. Perfect love. I was a member of a church where they taught about God's love. I didn't experience it though, it was just a theory for me. However, I saw love in the eyes of some parishioners. I decided to turn to God. Determined, I prayed to God. I know that God, you are perfect love. I no longer want to hear a theory or theology about love, I want to experience it. I continued this for a couple of weeks by praying daily. I was emotionally serious. I wanted to experience love. If the once God is love, perfect love, then of course I want to experience it. I watched love movies and listened to songs about love. I looked at our daughter's childhood pictures where she smiles widely, beaming. Within a week, one morning I woke up without worries, sorrows, anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, bitterness, shame. was cheerful, happy, and calm. I was feeling light. I wanted to tell and share this atmosphere with others. Even my spouse said that I had clearly changed. I think the problem was how could I give this feeling to others? This started to get annoying, and with that, the great feeling started to decrease day by day. Now I understand that each of us should only take care of ourselves. Of course, it is difficult to share such a great experience if no one or very few have their own experience. Others can't understand that, so I was happy when I got to experience this. Now you will surely understand why I want to experience and live in this love again. To be sure, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's just a decision. Oh, that can be an annoying phrase. It can't be that simple now. Yes, it requires a deeper sounding and a bigger solution to the problem. This is how my ego reacts to that sentence, those life-changing words. I experienced this very strongly once when I was sitting in a car with my family and a brother from the congregation was in the car. He said something that was troubling me at the time, that a change to that issue is just a decision to think or do differently. I remember how upset I was by that sentence. How could he state it so easily, that it would not require anything else, if only to make a decision or think differently? I later told that guy about that incident, but he no longer remembered saying it. That's why I believe that God used him and told me with his voice that it was simple but effective and the only solution that works. Among other things, this is how God sends his messages. Sometimes they are hard to hear, understand, or believe. But there was something about that message because it provoked so much resistance in me, and that's why I remember it well. Today, in KJK books, I have come across that sentence again and again. And God's message is clear: if I want to live that life where nothing or no one has a hold on me, no one can control, manage, influence my feelings. Because I have decided that my inner state is quiet, loving, understanding, compassionate, and forgiving. In this case, others won't persuade me to behave the same way as them. And on the other hand, no higher thought or action will succeed. It is therefore necessary that you believe in them and decide to act according to them. I choose to live in such a way that my life embodies my higher and deeper beliefs. I realized when I was driving home from work on a snowy day in sunny weather at noon, that God has allowed me to enjoy the shortest working days and pleasantly varied work tasks, because I wanted to do less work and easier tasks. Now I see them coming true. Thanks to Corona, it may be that this pandemic is caused by us because I'm not the only one who has thought the same as me. This is how we created a way to get more free time. I also understood that now that I am pursuing perfect love, a living relationship with God, that means I am fully awake, in other words, enlightened. I will enjoy it and I want to keep it for the rest of my life, because when I experienced it for the first time I didn't know how to keep it. It's great that the thoughts remain happy and that no negativity gets hold of the emotions. Genius. I told you I love you, my readers. Love is giving, and that's why I'm giving you all a definition of genius and instructions on how to solve the problems that come before you. The problem is thinking. You've always thought. Try not to think for once. Just try to be. The biggest insight comes when you're just being with the problem, rather than when you're thinking about it. Thinking is a creative process and being is a state of consciousness. So when you think about a problem, you try to create a solution. You can either try to create a solution or you can simply become aware of a solution that has already been created. Now tell you something new. Thinking is the slowest method of creation. Your mind needs information to create. You don't need knowledge to exist. Knowledge is an illusion. It's something you make up rather than something that is. Try to create from what is rather than illusion. Create a state of being rather than a state of mind. You can't find a quick, not any, answer by thinking about it. You must detach from your thoughts, leave the thoughts behind, and move into pure being. Haven't you heard the really great creators, the really great problem solvers say, when you let them solve a problem? Let me spend some time with it. This is exactly what they are talking about. And you can do the same. You too can be a great problem solver. But not if you imagine you can solve the riddle by thinking. No, you have to leave your mind, in order to be a genius. The genius is not the one who creates the answer, but the one who discovers that the answer has always been there. Genius doesn't create a solution, it finds a solution. It's not really about inventing, it's about reinventing. Nero did not invent anything but simply found something that had been lost. It was lost but has now been found. A genius is he who has remembered what you have forgotten. Now you have an opportunity to heal. This can be a moment of recollection. For I have come to tell you a great secret. You and the stars are one. You are made of the same stuff. Greetings, God of tomorrow. The human race is facing a major crisis, you can be sure of that. A crisis caused by conflicting ideologies, a crisis caused by beliefs. 7 steps to true friendship with God. 1. Know God. 2. Trust God. 3. Love God. 4. Receive God. 5. Use God. 6. Help God. 7. Thank God. When you thank God, you are aware that you have already received all the good things in life. Everything you need. Real and perfect people. The right places and events. To express and experience and evolve, they are all in place for you. The 5 attitudes of God. I always. Totally happy. Perfectly loving. Perfectly acceptable. Perfectly complimentary. Perfectly grateful. Meaning of abbreviations. Books of the God Trilogy, which cover the questions and answers of faith in God, relationship, creation. In the second, a little refresher, and then society and political issues, etc. And in the third, e.g., matters concerning life outside our planet. Conversion of God books number 1 to 3 and other books named God of Tomorrow, New Book of Revelation, Friendship with God and Connection to God. I have read these books and the first book, Conversations with God, many times, and I am convinced that these books are from God. These books can change an individual's life and also the whole world into such a wonderful place where everyone would like to be. The only question is, do we believe this good news and do we want to change this world and our own lives? I know how hard it is to give up our old habits. From hell. God says that there is no other hell than the fact that if a person is not able to experience peace, joy, love and happiness in his life, it can feel like hell to that individual. There is no other hell than the lack of joy, happiness, and peace. It would certainly be nice to get away from these habits. Every person finds peace within themselves. It's liberating in a great way. First, it frees you from fear that there is something that cannot be had. Fear of owning something that can be lost. Fear that without a certain thing, you cannot be happy. Second, it relieves anger. Anger is expressed fear. When there is nothing to fear, there is nothing to be angry about. You don't get angry even if you don't get what you want, because wanting is just a whim, not a necessity. Therefore, there is no fear or anger associated with not getting it. You don't get angry when others do something you don't want them to do, because you have no need to dictate what they do or don't do. Therefore, no anger follows from them. You don't get angry when someone is unkind because you don't need their kindness. You don't get angry when someone is rude because you don't need love. You don't mouth when someone is mean or trying to cause harm, because you don't need any other kind of behavior and you know that no harm can be done to you. You don't even get angry if someone tries to take your life, because you don't fear death. When fear goes away, everything can be taken from you and you won't get angry. You know internally, intuitively, that everything you have created can be recreated or that, more importantly, it doesn't matter at all. When you find inner peace, the presence or absence of any person, place or object, circumstance or situation cannot be the creator of the state of mind or the cause of the experience of being. This simple change, searching for and finding peace within oneself, could, if everyone did it, end all wars. Nothing else is needed and nothing else can help. Peace of mind is a matter for each individual. It does not require a change in circumstances, but a change in consciousness. Right and wrong are a product of our imagination. Those are your judgments. There are values that you decide. History proves that your perception of right and wrong changes. The human race is facing a major crisis, you can be sure of that. A crisis caused by conflicting ideologies, a crisis caused by beliefs. We need a new updated doctrine because we have been told, the religious doctrine system has told us that we are separate from God. Not because we felt that we were separate from God, from everything. Religious doctrine is not an eternal truth but a product of the cultural environment. People believe what they are taught to believe. They don't question it. Whom are you wronging if you change some of your basic experiences? That's the key to the whole thing. As long as you believe in the concepts of right and wrong, you are ready to be right, you will not change your beliefs. If by doing so you think you are doing wrong to yourself or someone you love. But as soon as you move from the right-wrong axis to the what works what doesn't work paradigm, it becomes easier for you to critically analyze your core beliefs, let alone change them. The world currently lives in a right-wrong paradigm. And they support a delusion about life, the illusion of separateness. You can imagine there is only one you, or one community, you know that everything is always enough because you created such an experience. If you believed so, we would share everything equally in a Christian way. You would make sure each other as well. We are one, all and with all. A closer look reveals that you and the rocks, trees, planets, sun and moon are of the same substance, while beautiful snowflakes and you look different but you are of the same substance and notice. God's speech. This cannot continue. Your world cannot continue if fear is its guiding principle. Love must become its guiding principle. I urge you here to adopt a new core belief system where you can build a foundation for those core values that you have not abandoned. A core belief system that changes as circumstances and consciousness and experiences change. Core beliefs always serve people's agenda. Because they serve the soul's agenda. At the moment, the beliefs that support the human community serve the body's agenda. And so they bring you into a state of tremendous disruption in the body's agenda. According to the agenda, the body must be able to survive, be nourished, be safe and experience pleasure. The soul's agenda is completely different. The soul knows that staying alive and feelings of safety and pleasure are not the core issues. The soul understands that it is life itself. Locally manifested, safety and enjoyment are the resulting properties. The soul does not seek them because the soul is one with them. The divine spirit personified in the soul, which is all there is. Soul is a universal life energy, which at a certain time and in a certain space concentrates and is localized and vibrates at a certain frequency. The energy that vibrates at such a high frequency in a certain way is the unique flow of universal life. The soul is who you are with your body and with your mind you experience who you are. In the active world, your soul's home is the absolute world where the divine spirit dwells. Your soul now lives in a relativistic realm. And on the way back home, it merges with the rest of itself once again. In other words, unites with the divine spirit. It merges into that result again as one spirit. Your body is yours, but it is not one like you. A body is something you use. It is a tool, an apparatus, a mechanism that responds to a stimulus, reacts in a certain way to certain influencing factors, to certain stimuli. This mechanism can be harmed and damaged or destroyed, but not you. This medium can be rendered completely unusable, but not you. This machine may stop working, but you won't. Does the basic principle of functionality manifest itself forever in you and through you? Some believe that you are in the body, that it is the seat of your innermost being. Consider that your body is your soul, the resting place of the innermost being called the soul. That is not true. The soul is the resting place of the body. The soul does not live in the body. On the contrary, the body lives in the force field that you call the soul as its source. If you then simply realize that you are all one with God and one with each other, and that the codes of conduct and international agreements that would result from that realization, political, economic and spiritual, the reality on earth would change in a way that your current exclusive religions will never be able to. So if you want to move into the world, as you said you would, you must create a new spirituality based on the new revelations. Because your old religion of inclusiveness and elitist separateness doesn't work anymore. They don't serve you theologically anymore. We are all one. Our way is not better, it's just different. This may be the gospel of a new spirituality. If you then think that all bodies are one single body, that you would do anything that would reduce the chances of the entire human race surviving, but you would do everything you could to improve those chances. Now you are doing the exact opposite. In many ways, you are adversely affecting the survival chances of the collective known as humanity. Because you mistreat your environment, and you don't pay enough attention to ecology, because you mismanage politics and the national economy, because you don't fully understand the spiritual truth as it manifests in so many of your religions, because you have a wrong attitude to the spiritual, the structures of them, and the social apart from reconciliation and behave accordingly. Truth be told, it happens in so many ways that your chances are getting worse by the day. People act like this precisely because most of them do not consider themselves part of a collective. You have put yourself in a terrible situation. The hearts of millions of people are filled with despair, rage, hatred and desperate intentions, and now, thanks to the rapid development of modern technology, those angry people have in their hands destructive tools to unleash their negativity in a way that you could not have imagined even in your worst nightmares. You have to decide here and now and not in some distant future. Will the world be changed with destructive or revitalizing weapons, words of anger or hope, acts of war or peace, thoughts of fear or love? You must decide whether you will act destructively or constructively. You can now destroy yourselves once and for all, or you can create yourselves, the second greatest. Now a series of actions is needed, because no charismatic leader or spiritual teacher can perform a miracle at the same time. The time of individual world healers and gurus is over. Now we need collective consciousness and collective action to change the current collective reality. This is how it should be, because your current reality has been created collectively. Now is the time for you to recreate it collectively. Then work as a collective. Do not follow individualist leaders, but nurture collective consciousness each separately. Then act collectively so that you can awaken the called collective in humanity. The world is ready now, and capable of such action, because mass communication is now possible in a completely different way than ever before. Links are now global. The whole planet is now united. You have unprecedented tools at your disposal. People can be motivated to join such a front by offering exciting new opportunities and convincing them that they have the power to change the world. If people imagine they are powerless, they will do nothing. If people believe they can do something, they will do it. You have to convince people that they can do something and then show them that it can happen more easily than they could have imagined. If they first create a state of being where action comes naturally from their being rather than trying to find something to do just to do something without it changing who they are at all. Just doing is not the answer. The whole world community has been trying to do something to fix the problems for a long time. Nothing has brought about lasting change. The human race still works the same as it has for hundreds of years. The answer is that there is something that the world community has not responded to for a long time, its problems by being something, but that would bring about a lasting change. Then the human race could cease to function, as it has for hundreds of years, when your actions reflect who you are rather than your attempt to create something you wish you were. You know it brings about a permanent change in yourself, it brings about change in the world. Everything changes when the starting point of the decision is not peace and love. It changes the focus of the whole existence. As a result, the source of desires is inside rather than outside of you. Then it is always and everywhere accessible. That's real power, that kind of power, which changes people's lives in the world. This complete inner peace and total love for all humanity can be achieved in an instant or it can take a lifetime. It all depends on yourself. It all depends on how hard you hope. Thus, you can achieve any state of being you desire by going into the inner state, simply deciding and calling it forth. At the moment, more moods or reactions. It doesn't have to be. You can make creations out of them. When you realize that you are not one with your body, that you cannot and will never die. And when you understand that God is never a judgmental, disapprovingly angry, vengeful God, then your lifelong worries will be over, you will survive it happily ever after. You will change completely, you will be able to interact with the world in a completely new way. You literally become a new person. You will live a new spirituality with full confidence. And you completely spontaneously create a new society. You are excited by your new way of looking at life, seeing other people and treating them, your new order of values and your new understanding of what is important and what is not. They lift your spirits, not to mention. What do you think could be a good enough reason to kill others? You will be surprised to notice how you have been going around the ring all these years, walking as if in a maze. Being trapped in this cycle of violence has been amazing, and breaking free from this cycle of violence is atonement, or what you call atonement. Now you can believe the unbelievable, that God only wants good for you. You can stop fearing God now. You have never had to fear and you never will again. You can talk to God, every one of you, at any time. You can make friends with God, every one of you. Every day you can experience connection with God. Every one of you, every moment. You can finally free yourself from the idea that God wants you to suffer, that suffering is good, that you are not expected to be happy. There are some big things to do in order to create the life you want for yourself and others. The good news, though, is that it only takes a little. A smile, a touch of laughter, a decision to forgive, a willingness to share, the ability to cry and hear others cry, a living relationship and love and trust in God, acceptance of other people, a decision to live, a decision. With this wisdom you can create yet another world. God's 9 revelations. 1. God has never stopped communicating directly with people. God has communicated with and through people since the beginning of time. God is doing that in our day. 2. Every person is as special as everyone who has ever lived, lives now or will live. You are all messengers. Every one of you. You carry the message of life every day, every hour, every moment. 3. No road to God is more direct than other roads. No religion is the only true religion. No nation is the chosen nation, and no prophet is a greater prophet. 4. God needs nothing. God needs nothing to be satisfied. God is contentment itself. That is why God does not demand anything from anyone or anything in the universe. 5. God is not a separate super being living in some corner of the universe or beyond. Who has the same emotional needs, who lives in the same turmoil of emotions as people. What God is cannot be offended or harmed in any way and has no need to take revenge or punish. 6. All is one, there is only one and all are part of it. One that is. 7. There is no right or wrong. There's just what works and what doesn't, depending on what you're trying to do and own. 8. You are not the same as your body. You are limitless and infinite. 9. You cannot die and you can never be condemned to eternal damnation. Use these moments of life to manifest your highest truth. To offer your own sincere love and heal all the wounds you and others have inflicted on yourselves. Your lives don't have to be the way they are. People are able to live with each other in peace and harmony. However, some must show the way, some must express with their lives that they are the way, some must decide to be the first domino. I urge you to make a choice, I urge you to create the moments of your own life to look for new revelations. You start to control situations when you decide in advance that your inner state is calm and loving, understanding and compassionate and forgiving. The outside world loses his grip on you, regardless of what the moment brings. Others will not persuade you to behave as they do. It's incredible that God is with us all the time, we just don't know it. But when we realize it and remind ourselves of it, everything changes immediately. Such a moment can happen to you right now. How does this work? On this page, I will tell you how to make new beliefs work and the benefits they bring. All of you will be gifted with the glory of power and wonder. You are capable of achievements and experiences that exceed even our wildest dreams. We are on the threshold of a golden age, in the beginning of 1,000 years of peace, which will lead the human race to greater glory than you can even imagine. It is a gift in the future. Let's choose it. Beliefs are the magic pill. It all depends on what you believe in your life, your life. It is enough that you believe in life, love it, want it to continue, and this is how we change our beliefs. Humanity's goal is peace. Our soul is bound to us and it is the miracle of life expressed. The heart is the bridge between the mind and the soul. Lose your mind and move to the heart space, from there it's a short jump to the soul. Which superiority will you choose? Attack from outside or strength coming from within you? With the power of new beliefs of ideas, you will be able to banish all negativity from the world. Decide who you are, express your decision every moment of every day. Every action defines you, thoughts, words, deeds. They are a personal choice. Life is a mediator of decisions. Communicate your decisions to the world. With decisions, who have you decided to be? Who are others? Why are you here? Why do you imagine they are here? What is life itself about? These decisions have a bigger impact on life than you can imagine. They affect people in ways you can't even imagine. We have to admit that what we are doing now is not working. Religion, politics, economy, education. They don't hold society up, in fact, they bring it down. Structures are based on beliefs that no longer serve us. Get rid of them. Your creation could not be called a civilization, it is anything but a civilization when you look at our entire planet and how our beliefs have created it. Change the beliefs that created the current structures of our society, develop them. If we choose a world where peace, harmony and happiness prevail, we need to reform our world and society at all levels. Everything in the world is urging you to recreate yourself. You are discouraged by superiority. What force majeure? The current situation or great ideas that can create a new situation. Which superiority will you choose? From the outside or from the inside? With the power of new beliefs, we are able to crush negativity from the world. The religious insanity still continues, so the murderer shouts, Allah is great. It's terribly ironic and extremely sad that some people don't even see the contradiction. The question is, do you want new and uncharted seas? Or do you let the flood of events sweep you back to the ground? What have your hopes been crushed 1,000 times already? The starting point is that you start by changing yourself. As yourself changes, your inner world changes, and the sweet world you touch gradually changes, and the world it touches changes, and the world it touches changes. It is spreading further and further out. The old theologies have failed to stop us, and we are killing each other. Everything in civilization is based on misconceptions. Examine your misconceptions that are the basis of your current beliefs about theology and life. You can't start unless you admit that something needs to be improved. You have to agree that it doesn't work now. When, if not now? Who if not you? Are you really ready for new insights? Are you really ready to look at things from a new perspective? Do you seriously want to know what you don't understand? I am going to ask you to make room for the possibility that new understandings and new revelations can and will be presented through you. Step into step with your highest self. You are one with your bigger thoughts. They led you to that path. Fall in love because love is the path. You are such an escort. You have an internal guidance system that has many names: intuition, hunch, certainty, or feeling in your bones and cores. And you cannot deny its existence. Spirituality does not require you to believe anything. It calls you to focus on your experiences. It is personal authority. Right now, life on our planet and the belief that is its basis is not working. If we can't admit that these things don't work, we're lost, and nothing can be done to improve the situation. It is difficult to experience anything that is not considered possible. When you don't understand, deny it. I give the world a new announcement, a new understanding of life, and allow more space for possibility. To admit that we stay to do it. If you really want to be one of those who, for your part, change the world from a self-destructive direction, you have to act. The desire to grow is positive, the desire to have more life, it is the driving force behind everything. You can direct the change, how the change is realized, control how your life changes. The way you change your life and the world around you determines who you are, who you decide to be now. There are two ways to change the world: 1. Save, 2. Destroy. Are you the one who reminds others to make the right choice? If you choose to save, this is the call of a new spirituality and can become the mission of the team of humanity. You are messengers of the word. You have only one message: I see you for what you really are. No other message is needed. Going on a trip is therefore important. It raises life's energy and vibrational frequency. We live in a world of our own creation, an illusion, an untruth, an experience that has nothing to do with the ultimate reality, i.e., who we really are. May it happen to you as you believe. Great is your faith, let it be as you will. Truly, if you had faith, nothing would be impossible for you. I find that you cannot believe in yourself unless you believe that man is divine. You clearly need an example. Your soul is that. You and your soul are one. Follow the soul and you will experience peace. The soul is evolving in the body to become an ever greater version of itself. This is the purpose of life. Unity is not the same as sameness. Unity and individuality are not mutually exclusive. Differences don't have to mean disagreement, and they don't have to lead to conflict. You make a choice every day. When, if not now? Who if not you? Are you that person? Do you decide to be a source of inspiration for all those whose lives you touch? That is the question your soul is asking now. That is why it has brought you to this text. Change is possible. Who wants to see and experience that? When a person does something terrible, it is because of his beliefs. Something hurts him so much that he feels compelled to hurt others in order to heal. It's a question of conflict in situations where someone directs negative energy at another, both at home and in international affairs. Be willing to listen to the answer. You cannot ignore it, dismiss it, ignore it, belittle it, deny its value because you disagree. When someone fights, they usually fight for attention. If they could get you to listen and help them in that which offends them, without fighting with them, they would give up the fight. If not otherwise, to avoid dangerous situations. Say, I understand that you feel that way. You have to be ready to say these words that can heal the world. What hurts you so much that you have to hurt me to heal? The feeling that someone else understands makes people forget their despair and opens the door to conversation. The attacker always considers all his attacks as defense. Life's experiences eventually make you change your perception of right and wrong to what works and what doesn't. Build a bridge, become a bridge. Live the beliefs of the new spirituality. Walk the path of the new revelation. Don't just talk about it, but prove it with your lived life. Point the way. Be a bringer of light. You have the upper hand and no one and nothing can control you. Because you decide in advance that your inner state is peaceful, loving, understanding, compassionate, sympathetic and forgiving. And life and the world change. Right and wrong doors are a product of imagination. They are your assessments, they are values that you decide on. History proves that your perception of right and wrong changes. This is not a small matter. It is not a small matter that was said once and then forgotten. This is a big thing that deserves to be repeated over and over again and worth coming back to again and again. This is our teaching, then everything else will fall into place. We are all one. Act on them. Need is the biggest delusion. Distance yourself from it and you will see it as an illusion. You start living in a completely new way. You enter a new world, a world where there is no God. You don't need anything. Cumulative development awakens illusions. Dreams are preparation for a project. Knowledge has many possibilities that we have not used yet. The data is still in a passive state, waiting for action. You need to take a break from your conventional thinking to start considering other ideas and other alternative views. You also need to be more diplomatic, weigh the pros and cons of the two available options, and assume that there might actually be a third way to solve the problems. You may have to compromise or leave things as they are. You may disagree with other people because you haven't really seen your point of view. There is a need for a ceasefire where we reconcile our differences, during which time we either try to understand each other's views before reaching a final solution. The situation is not only a potential conflict, but also represents peace through a ceasefire. Likewise, two swords can reflect hesitation. Again, there are a lot of things you're trying to push. At some point you have a decision to make things happen. Observation. I can turn my back on the past. By saying a strong no, I don't want thoughts and moods about past events. No, I think about the good things of the present and the good things of the future. I think about what I want to come true, what I want to experience, not the old negation no, but to walk in light, joy, happiness. Create what I want. How do you get rid of fear? Either total fear or total love. Whenever light enters darkness, darkness disappears. How do I get rid of fear? That is, the life created by the ego, when it completely controls the mind and emotions. However, the reality is different. The truth is that we have the opportunity and freedom to choose and also to live and experience perfect love. A life based on fear is so tight in thoughts and feelings that it can take over your whole life. Fear has no intention of backing down because that would be the end of it. The mind does understand and know the theories about the bliss of perfect love, but fear does not believe or fully trust it. and does not want to give up its power because of its own existence. Is it true that the more you believe in perfect love, the more you experience it? Of course, fear does not want to believe this statement. It seems that there is no way forward in this goal of perfect love. Fear has power, and so every day the feelings of fear come and dominate the emotions. What to do? We have been told that in order to be free from fear we must A. Believe and repeat that the only real truth is perfect love, everything else is a lie, fear is an illusion. B. Thanks for understanding and seeing this fallacy. C. Thanks that I get to know the truth and live in perfect love. D. Teaching and learning because they are our greatest strengths, because they allow us to change our minds and help others change theirs. E. The real solution is based entirely on ruling through love. F. Fear is really nothing and love is everything. Whenever light enters darkness, darkness disappears. Knowing the ego. We dream of a divorced ego and believe in a world that rests upon it. This is very true for you. We can't cancel it without changing your mind about it. If you are willing to let go of the guardianship of your thought system and open it to perfect love, it will very gently fix it and I will guide you back to perfect love. It is natural for fear to try to protect itself, as you have done, but you have never had to. You are freed from the desire to follow its laws because you no longer believe in them. It's not how you respond to the ego, it's what you believe you are. Belief is an ego function, and as long as your origin is open to belief, you are looking at it from the ego's point of view. When teaching is no longer necessary, you just feel perfect love. The belief that there is another way to perceive is the highest conception of what ego thinking is capable of. This is because it contains the cue to recognize that the fear is not real. Your attitudes toward perfect love are necessarily conflicting, because all attitudes are ego-based. Giving everything to the ego means you have to do without it. When you associate giving with sacrifice, you only give because you believe you will get something better, and therefore you can do without what you gave. To give is to receive is the inescapable law of the ego, which always evaluates itself in relation to other egos. It is therefore constantly concerned with the belief in scarcity that gave birth to it. Its whole perception of other egos as real is just an attempt to convince itself that it is real. Self-esteem in ego terms means nothing more than that the ego has tricked itself into accepting its reality and is therefore temporarily less predatory. This sense of self is always subject to stress, a term that refers to any perceived threat to the existence of the ego. The ego literally lives through comparisons. Equality is out of reach, and charity becomes impossible. The ego never gives of abundance because it is made to be a substitute for it. This is why the concept of getting into the ego's thinking system. Appetites are gain mechanisms that represent the ego's need to strengthen itself. This applies equally to bodily appetites and to the so-called higher ego needs. The body's appetites are not of physical origin. The ego considers the body its home and tries to satisfy itself through the body. But the idea that this is possible is the decision of a mind that has become completely confused about what is actually possible. The ego believes that it is completely on its own, which is just another way of describing how it thinks it was born. This is such a frightening state that it can only turn to other egos and try to unite with them in a feeble attempt at identification, or attack them in an equally feeble show of force. Ego is the mind's belief that it is completely on its own. The ego's incessant attempts to gain the recognition of the spirit and thus to validate its own existence are futile. The spirit in its knowledge is not aware of the ego. It does not attack it. It just can't grasp it at all. Although the ego is not at all aware of the spirit, it finds itself rejected by someone greater than itself. This is why self-esteem in ego terms must be a delusion. The so-called struggle for survival as only the ego's struggle to preserve itself and its interpretation of its own platform. This beginning is usually associated with physical birth because it is difficult to argue that the ego existed before that point in time. It's hard to understand what perfect love really means. This is because it is incomprehensible to the ego, which interprets it as if something outside is inside, and this means nothing. The word, inside, is unnecessary. The perfect love is you. What else but you? We are perfect love. This is the whole message of the atonement, a message that as a whole exceeds the sum of its parts. You too have a perfect love that your spirit created. It has not stopped creating ego because of illusions. Your creations are no more fatherless than you. Your ego and spirit will never be co-creators, but your spirit and perfect love always will be. Trust that your creations are as safe as you are. Both the wonders of perfect love and fear come from thoughts. If you can't choose one, you can't choose the other either. By choosing wonder, you have abandoned fear, if only temporarily. You have been afraid of everyone and everything. You are completely afraid of love, me and yourself. You have misunderstood or created us wrong and believe what you have done. You wouldn't have done this if you weren't afraid of your own thoughts. The fearful must create wrongly because they misunderstand creation. When you create something wrong, you have pain. The cause and effect principle now becomes a real accelerator, albeit only temporarily. In fact, reason is a term that properly belongs to perfect love and its effect on you. This involves a set of cause and effect relationships that are completely different from the ones you bring up. So the basic conflict in this world is between creation and miscreation. The second includes all fear and the first includes all love. The conflict is therefore a conflict between love and fear. All attempts to resolve the error by trying to control the fear are useless. In fact, it asserts the power of fear by the very assumption that it must be controlled. The real solution is based entirely on ruling through love. In the meantime, however, a sense of conflict is inevitable because you've put yourself in a position where you believe in the power of something that doesn't exist. Nothing and everything cannot coexist. To believe in one is to deny the other. Fear really is nothing and love is everything. Whenever light enters darkness, darkness disappears. How does this not work? On this page, I will tell you how these ideas presented on the page do not work. The reason for the claims made is the claim that what we know now will suddenly break down explosively. There are events and situations ahead that we can't ignore, so it's time to make amends and ask ourselves, why do we act like this, that civilization collapses? This is the time of human race selection. The first hurdle is convenience. We are used to living in the comfort of our area. Change requires renewal and it is perceived as unpleasant. We know from experience that we can't accomplish anything new in our comfort zone. We have to get out of there if we want to achieve something. For example, a slim stomach and abdominal muscles do not come by sitting and eating goodies. We should exercise and change our diet. The same is true for a change in beliefs. We need to look at our beliefs about what works and what doesn't work and update them to today's level. Another obstacle is beliefs. We have beliefs about how to approach life, how to solve problems. They clearly have not brought peace, happiness, love to the world. The third obstacle. Indifference that another, e.g. government or a foreign state, will take care of the job. Well, this is accepted for those who decide that way. Now we are looking for those who see the need for change. Proper human relationships. I believe that not everyone has received the great love they wanted from their youth, but had to settle for a lesser experience of it. The master is the one who has decided to search for love, search until he learns to understand it and finds love in his own heart, understands the inner peace and compassion that love brings, sympathy, understanding and forgiveness, and gains from its superiority over the stimuli of the outside world. Other Finns are persuaded to behave in the same way as them. Many have experienced that there is less in their relationship than when they lived alone. The other may have become obsessed, paying attention to what the other does, says. The mistake is born unconsciously from our subconscious. We go into a relationship to be more than being alone, only to be disappointed because we are less. We are less attractive, joyful, happy, calm, desirable. Most of us say love is that we seek to love ourselves through loving another person. They don't realize they are doing so. If I can love others, they love me too, then I am lovable and I can love myself. The opposite is the feeling that no one loves them. It is a disease called love sickness. They don't believe others, they think they are manipulating or trying to get something. How can anyone really love me? They try to prove your words, do you still love me? They wonder how long they can keep it up and change their behavior. Thus, two people literally lose each other in a relationship. Losing oneself causes the most bitterness. Feeling less than when they were alone, more incapable, more bored, more unwilling, less happy and satisfied. They really are less. They have given up a large part of who they are in order to maintain a human relationship. Relationships aren't meant to be. An incredible number of people feel that way. What is important in a relationship is what you give of yourself, not what you can get and like from the other person. A relationship has one purpose: to decide to be who and what one really is. Find someone with whom you can and share your perfection. The only real experience is how you use your own expectations. We want to be loved, but love, on the contrary, gives it without a gift in return. Love holds good, gives, opens, remains, reveals, heals, holds good, lets go, soothes, makes amends. It's amazing how we place great value on the words and actions of the unloving. In reality, there are few in the world at the level of a master, and many focus their speeches on negative events, on what they have experienced, what has been done or said to them. His internal-external negative speech is playing the same record day after day, and as we know our speech is creative, we create the same drama and misery over and over again. To avoid this, we must silence the voice of the ego and be in the vibrations of our highest self. To think about what you want to experience, what brings joy and good mood, to think positively. Let everyone take care of themselves in relationships. What you do, want, ask, give, search, create, experience. Then the relationships fulfill the expectations of the parties of their purpose. Let everyone only take care of themselves. Love has no requirements. That's what makes it love. If your love for another person comes with demands, it's not love at all, just a fake version of love. Does the bully have too big of an ego? What is ego? A person is said to have a big ego when he behaves selfishly and does not feel empathy towards others. The person behaves like a narcissist without thinking, and he does not care about the consequences that his people experience from his belittling behavior. What is causing this? It has been said that the one with a big ego has little self-acceptance and self-love skills. So you have to boost your sense of self-worth, which gives you feelings of pleasure. In his loneliness, he may experience feelings of inferiority, self-loathing, self-reproaches, feeling that he is not good enough and must do more and more in order to feel accepted, and therefore he demands the same behavior from others. He often has negative and angry thoughts. A person who respects himself and loves himself in turn usually always has positive thoughts and feelings. So he naturally thinks positively and runs away from negative thinking and company where he comes across negative words. I myself have noticed that a positive feeling can disappear in an instant if you encounter a disparaging statement that is followed by the same energy that this reviewer sent. However, we have the upper hand for such an event and a way to stay in a positive, calm feeling. Supremacy is to remember every morning and in those situations where you feel negation coming to your mind, that you have decided that you have peace, love, compassion, sympathy, understanding and forgiveness inside you. So if you understand where the negative comments come from and understand why someone behaves like that, and you remember that you have these superior powers that prevent you from getting into similar negative thoughts and emotional states, you are free from negations and you keep your peace of mind. I think the current state of the world requires a change in attitudes and religious values. We think we are forced to do this, because if we continue as if this does not concern me, it may happen that when the situation worsens, it really does concern us in an unexpected, unpleasant way. Change is slow but inevitable. We can get used to it, but do we want to adapt to a decaying society? I want to keep the world as we know it now and fix the problems we have already created so that life can remain pleasant on our planet. Our planet is a gem among other cold bodies in the sky. Let's preserve this paradise for our children's children. Let's show them the way to a happy life. 1. There has been a shooting in the Middle East. 2. There has been a war in Israel. 2. The towers of New York have been destroyed. 3. Corona has killed millions. 4. Global warming. 4. Pound and war, etc. What else are we waiting for? I finally feel that I can and can do something. My level of awareness finally rose after reading Neil's books. Before, I was in pain because I was not able to influence, and I pulled myself into the fact that the world is like this now and other decision makers decide for me, hoping for good solutions. But isn't it time to wake up and wake up, this country, this world? The decisions that are made in the world are from yesterday's conception of God, and we can clearly see that it has not brought peace, joy, to the world. It's about what and who God really is. Neil aptly wrote the book God of Tomorrow, where God himself tells us that he is a God of love. If he is all in everything, everywhere, and we are a part of this universe, then God is in us and we are God, that is, we are all like God. So everyone should hear and understand this. There is nothing but love in us. Everything else is a lie. This book advises the possibility of enlightenment. Yes, it is possible. It's just a decision and a choice. Anyone can make such a decision, anytime, anywhere. There would be no better time for that than right now. Make your goal possible. It's the smaller goal that motivates you. You will be amazed what happens. You just have to want it enough to never go back again. Like in baseball, I run to second base and score a run for my team. You also need to believe that the goals will come true. It's meant for you. Remember, you have nothing to lose if you try. Remember, every time is a step forward, even if it seems like nothing will come of this, it's a memory of the past. The light ahead is bright. So dare to try. You may be surprised. Our relationships. Human relationships are an important part of our lives. It is almost impossible to live without human relationships. Working human relationships produce warm feelings and great joy, i.e., positive emotions. Dysfunctional relationships produce negative experiences and emotions. Great expectations. Most of us start our relationship life with the highest expectations. Full of sexual energy, with open hearts and cheerful and eager minds. Around the age of 40 to 60, we give up our biggest dream, put aside our highest hopes and settle for lesser expectations, or just empty loneliness. The crux of the problem. The problem is quite basic and simple, but nevertheless tragically misunderstood. Your biggest dream, your highest idea, and your most ardent desire is about your loved one rather than about yourself. The test of a human relationship is how well the other person is able to meet your expectations and how well you feel you meet the other party's expectations. And yet the only real test is how well you live up to your own expectations. Human relationships are the only opportunity to create and produce the experience of the highest conceptual form of oneself. Human relationships fail if they are seen as the mother's greatest opportunity to create and produce an experience of another person's highest conceptual form. When a love affair fails, relationships succeed when they are used for their intended purpose. When a relationship fails, i.e., they don't produce the result we would have liked, it fails because they are undertaken for reasons that do not contribute to their preservation. Most of us get into relationships more for what we can get out of them than for what we can give them. Let every person living in a relationship take care of his own self, what his self is, does, wants, asks, gives, seeks, creates, experiences, then all human relationships fulfill their purpose and the expectations of their parties. Let every person living in a relationship take care only of himself. If you focus all your attention on the other person, you become obsessed with the other person, then your relationship will fail. What is the other one? What does the other do? What does the other get? What does the other say? Want to? Demands. What does the other person think? Accept. Planning. A master lover understands that it doesn't matter what the other person is, does, gets, says, wants or demands. It doesn't matter what the other person thinks, expects and plans. It only matters what you are in relation to it. How do relationships work out? There is a way with which you can be happy in your relationships, and that is to use relationships for their intended purpose and not for the purpose that each person has come up with for them. Human relationships are always challenging, they always force a person to create, express and experience the highest visions of themselves. Always only grander versions. Nowhere can it be done faster, more efficiently and more flawlessly than in human relationships. In fact, it cannot be done at all without human relationships. You can only be in relation to other people, places and events. You are what you are only in relation to what is not. Success in relationships depends on your will and of course also on your partner's will, on how well you want it to work. My own father's experience must be there for this. My father was not what he was. In my childhood, my father was a violent alcoholic. I buried my father when I was about 16 years old. At about the age of 20, I felt a great hatred towards what he did and the things left undone by him that I, as a child and as an adult, would have needed from him: support, love, friendship. I vented my anger by raging at him, telling him things he had done and how he had behaved. When I went to sleep, I had a very vivid dream in which my father came to me sitting on my bed and looking me in the eyes and saying, "You understand that I really wasn't like that at heart. You understand that this statement felt like a lie," and I began to take out even more of my frustration, raging at him. The next night, he had exactly the same vivid dream in which he told the same message with satisfaction and calmness. In the morning I began to superstitiously think, if I don't believe him now, he will take me with him the third time, so I began to remember his childhood, which was not very pleasant, and his way of drowning his pain in alcohol and staying hooked on it forever. No wonder his head went crazy and his behavior became inhuman. He really was wonderfully nice at heart. The trials of the world were too much for him. He did not find his highest self but his weaker self, he did not seek other help. He should have been what was love, peace only in relation to what was not. Discomfort and anxiety from own childhood. The most loving person. The most loving person is the one who focuses on himself. If you can't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. Many make the mistake of seeking to love themselves by loving other people. Of course, they don't realize they are doing so. It's not a conscious effort. It happens deep in the mind. In it, the East is called the subconscious. They think, if I can love others, they will love me. Because I am lovable and I can love myself. The opposite of a loving person. The opposite of this is that a person hates himself because he feels that there is no one who loves him. It is a disease. Then people are really sick, because in reality others love them. Even if many profess their love for them, it is not enough. First of all, they don't believe others. They think you are trying to manipulate them, that you are trying to get something from them. How could anyone really love them? That's why they don't believe you and try to make you prove your word. You have to prove that you love them. For that, they may ask you to change your behavior. Second, if they finally believe in your love, they will immediately start wondering how long they can keep it. Therefore, they begin to change their own behavior. Thus, two people literally lose each other in relationships. They started a relationship hoping to find themselves and instead lose themselves. Losing oneself causes the most bitterness in a relationship between two people. Two people join together in the hope that the whole is more than the sum of its parts, but they soon discover that it is less. They feel less than when they were alone. More incapable, more boring, less desirable, less happy and more satisfied. It's because they really are less. They have given up a large part of what they are in order to maintain a human relationship. Where relationships are meant for. Relationships are not meant to be that way, yet an incredible number of people experience them that way. You have lost knowledge of the purpose of human relationships. You don't see the purpose and reason behind every human relationship. These are the joy of creating yourself, the joy of knowing yourself. In that you consciously become what you want to be. That's what self-awareness means. Personal relationships are the most important parts of our world. There is no more crazy goal in life than to learn to know the highest part of yourself and focus on it. The first human relationship should always be with oneself. First of all, you have to learn to respect and love yourself. First, you have to learn to consider yourself worthy. Only then can you consider others worthy. You have to consider yourself blessed before you can consider others blessed. One must know oneself to be holy before one can recognize holiness in other people. A measure of love. The measure of progress as a master of love is how predictably you manage to make the highest choice in some situations. So what is the highest choice? Love, joy, peace. In all human relationships, only one question must be asked at a critical moment. What would love do now? No other question is relevant, no other question is important to your soul. The highest desire is that which produces the greatest possible good for you. What is the highest desire? Everything you do to others, you do to yourself. My own experience, the theory of relationship happiness in practice. Everything you do to others, you do to yourself. This is what my own experience says. Being in an unsatisfied marriage and sitting in the subway one time, I had the thought, if you want to be happy, you should make your lover happy. I'll give him all the attention and admiration you give to other women, and when he's happy about his tomorrow, you'll be happy too. The idea seemed great, now it's just my part to make it happen. It all depends on your will. Everything depends on your will, it is the law of cause and effect. You can have absolutely everything if you decide to. It's already yours even before you ask. Do you believe this? Your life progresses according to your own intentions. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to show who and what you really are? Why don't you just state the truth when you hear it and go for it? Choose again in a different way. Your decisions shape who you are. You no longer have to worry about your fate. The fear of failure goes away. You understand that the purpose is to prevent failure, to get as many opportunities as you want and need. You can always come back and try again. If you get to the next stage and the next level, it is because of your own desire and not because of necessity. You don't have to do anything. If you enjoy life at this level and feel like you don't need anything else, you can always experience it again. In fact, you've experienced it many times anew, for that very reason. You love drama in your life. You love pain. You love ignorance, mystery, and excitement. You love it all. That's why you're here. The purpose of relationships. The purpose of relationships is for you to decide which part of yourself you want to show. Not what part of another person you can get and keep. Human relationships can only have one purpose: to be and decide who and what you really are. It's romantic to say that you were nothing until you met a certain person, but it's not true. What's worse, it puts incredible pressure on the opponent. He should be something he's not. You don't want to disappoint each other, and each of you tries to be and act as expected until you can't anymore. You are no longer able to follow the image formed of you, nor to fulfill the roles you have been predestined for. Sadness and anger gradually wake up. Eventually, in hopes of saving yourself and your relationship, you begin to realize your true self and act more on its terms. Around that anger, it is said that the other person has changed a lot. It is very romantic to say that you feel completely whole when this very special person has entered the picture. The one I've been waiting for so long. Still, the purpose of a relationship is not to get another person to complete yourself, but to find a person with whom you can share your perfection. This is the paradox of all human relationships. No one needs another person to fully experience who they are, and without another person, no one is anything. This includes the mystery and wonder, frustration and joy of the human experience. It requires a deep understanding and a complete desire to live in the paradox so that it makes sense. Very few people are capable of that, and therefore the number of singles is increasing. Love is the answer. However, you haven't listened. Can you hear me now? Do you really hear what I'm saying? I have heard your heart cry. I have seen your soul searching. I know how deeply you have thirsted for the truth. In pain and in joy you have shouted it. You have begged love to show itself, to find out love, to reveal love. Here it is. I'll do it so directly that you can't misunderstand love, in such simple language that you won't get confused, in such plain terms that you won't get confused in the jungle of words. Tragedy. In many ways, the tragedy is being in a body. You have to understand that the soul sees the whole thing in a completely different way. Of course, it also sees life in a different way, and that is largely the cause of all the frustration and anxiety that a person feels throughout his life. Frustration and anxiety arise from not listening to his own soul, the path of love, peace. Choose gratitude. The best way is to express gratitude and satisfaction. Thank you, love. Thank you, life, for being successful in life. When this thought is thought, said out loud and turned into action, it produces miraculous results. If it arises from the real knowledge that results have already been produced, not from a mere attempt to produce results. In which place do you want to be, fear or love? Are you going to be in a place called fear or a place called love? Where are you and where do you come from when you face life? Choose higher forms of being. Choose goodness, pity, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, love. Being attracts being and produces experiences. Joy and love are not found by doing. If you choose peace, joy and love, you don't get much by doing it. If you choose happiness and contentment, you won't find it in the way of doing. Doing is an activity of the body, being is an activity of the soul. The soul doesn't care what you do to live, and neither will you when your life is over. Your soul only cares about what you are when you do what you do. Try to be what you want to be. Shouldn't you think about what you want? Still, your mind is full of other people's thoughts and thoughts born from experiences. Very few of your thoughts are self-generated information, let alone opinions. You may think it's easy to be who you really are, but in reality it's the most challenging thing you can do in your life. It might even happen that you don't succeed at all. Few succeed in one lifetime, or even in many. Here's why I don't, or why he isn't so lovably sweet. You will never harm a relationship or any person by seeing more in him than you are being shown. Your wisdom grows. Please be patient. Your wisdom grows. There is even more joy without pain. That's a really good sign too. You will learn how to love without pain, how to create pain without pain, even how to cry without pain. That way you can even experience pain without pain. You will be able to pull away from life's trials and see them for what they are. Even to laugh. Betraying oneself in order not to betray someone else is nevertheless cheating. It is the biggest fraud. You assume that people always make choices that you call selfish. I'll tell you, a person is capable of making the highest choices. The highest choice is not always the one that seems to serve another's interest. You must always put yourself first. Then you make your choice according to what you are trying to do or what you are trying to experience. When a person's purpose, the purpose of his life is very high, the choices are also high. Putting yourself first is by no means what you call selfish, it means self-awareness. Sex. Feeling good is the soul's way of shouting, "Here I am." Most people have a lot to learn about sexuality and its wonderfully beneficial expression. The more pleasure you bring to yourself, the more pleasure you can share with others. If you allow yourself to enjoy sex, you can share more sex with the other person. Allow yourself all that life has to offer, and you may find that it has more to offer than you could ever imagine. A person is what he experiences. A person experiences what he expresses, and expresses what needs to be expressed. Everyone has what he allows himself. Express your sexual energy lovingly, openly, playfully, joyfully, passionately, fiercely, sacredly, romantically, humorously, spontaneously, touchingly, creatively, unashamedly, sensually, and of course often. Expressions of sexuality are the inevitable result of the eternal process of attraction and rhythmic flow of energy that animates all life. Tom and Mary, a love story. Two people are in the same room, Tom and Mary. Tommy sends personal energy and some of it hits Mary. Mary also sends out energy and some of it hits Tom. These energies meet in a way that you have not thought of. They meet halfway between Tom and Mary. Their energies combine and form a new energy unit, which we call Tomei. It is the combined energy of Tom and Mary. They are both connected to this energy and are constantly sending new energy to it. This shared energy of theirs in turn sends energy back. This experience of Tomeri is the truth of Tom and Mary. This holy unity attracts them both, because they feel the transcendental joy that prevails in the unity between them. Tom and Mary physically feel what's going on in the matrix, and they're both drawn to it. They want to get closer to each other. Immediately. Now education enters the picture. The world has taught them to slow down, to doubt this feeling, to be careful not to hurt themselves. They must behave with restraint. But the soul wants to know Tomeri right away. If these couples are lucky, they will be freed from their fear and trust that there is enough in love. The energy between them inevitably draws them together. Tomeri is already experienced on a metaphysical level, and Tom and Mary want to experience it physically as well. That's why they approach each other. Not at all to get to each other, although it might seem that way from an outsider, but to Tomeri. They are trying to get to that place of divine oneness that already exists between them. A place where they already know they are one and feel what it's like. Therefore, they move towards this feeling, and as the gap between them narrows and the connection shortens, the energy sent by their Tomari gets even stronger. They continue to move closer and the energy intensifies again. Then they are only half a meter away from each other. The combined energy between them is blazing hot and pulsing at breakneck speed. The connection to and from Tomari is thicker, wider, brighter and more burning thanks to the incredible energy. It is said that such people burn with desire. Really. They move even closer to each other. Then they touch. The experience is almost unbearable. Unique. In touch, they feel the entire energy of Tomari, the densely packed substance of a united being. If you open up to your most sensitive, you will feel this energy as a tingling sensation when you touch. Sometimes the shivers go all the way through you, or as a heat that can also be felt in the whole body, although it is concentrated deep in the lower chakra, or energy center. It's especially hot there, and Tom and Mary are getting hot. Then they embrace and the gap closes even tighter as Tom, Mary and Tomari fill the same space with makeup. Tom and Mary feel Tomari between them and want to get even closer, literally merge with Tomari, become Tomari in physical form. We have created male and female bodies in such a way that it can be done. Tom's body is ready to literally push inside Mary. Mary's body is ready to receive Tom. Tingling and burning are at their strongest now. It is indescribable. Physical bodies merge. Tom, Mary and Tomari merge into one. In the flesh. The energy still flows between them. Violently. Frantically. They move and turn, can't get enough of each other, can't get close enough. They always strive to get closer. 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 They explode. Literally, and their physical bodies convulse. The vibration sends ripples down to the fingertips. In the explosion of their unity, they have known God and Goddess, Alpha and Omega, everything and nothing, the essence of life, the experience of what is. Physical chemistry also has an effect. Two have become one, and often from these two a third entity is born in physical form. That's how Tomari's image is born. Flesh from their flesh. Blood from their blood. They have literally created life. Haven't I said that you are the creators of your life? What would love do? In all decisions it is important to ask, what would love do? Love for oneself and love for all those involved. If you love another person, you don't do anything that you think might hurt them. If you feel that you have been offended, it is best to tell your loved one the truth, that you feel hurt and frustrated because you have left something out, and ask for your loved one's consent to it. Such a consensus must be striven for, compromises must be made. It is necessary to find a method of operation that everyone can accept. Relationships in general. Without interaction there is no relationship. Interaction is therefore the basis of human relationships. In a good interaction, self-expression, listening to the other person, the ability to wait and react are central. In all important human relationships, attachment and dependence arise. The key is the amount and quality of the attachment and how functional or dysfunctional the addiction is. Childhood creates the basis for how we act in our relationships as adults. In a close human relationship, connection and separation are present at the same time. When a child is born, he only needs contact with the adult who cares for him, but very soon he develops a need for separation. These needs do not disappear, but remain throughout life in all our human relationships. On the one hand, we long for connection with another, on the other hand, independence and freedom. Different roles in relationships. Have you noticed that you may play a different role in different relationships? You probably bring out different sides of yourself at work than, say, at home. The role, i.e., the aspect of identity, is permanent, but not all roles are on the surface at the same time. Your roles may be, for example, parent, grandparent, spouse, friend, or predecessor. Emotions in relationships. Emotions are of great importance in all human relationships. The emotions you experience in your close relationships are stronger and they affect your behavior more. Attitudes usually mean behavior patterns related to emotions learned in childhood and youth relationships, which are repeated in relationships as an adult. Family and relationships. In family relationships, the relationship between the child and the adult caring for the child slowly develops from symbiosis towards separation. Sometimes the need for separateness develops in leaps and bounds, such as during puberty and adolescence. A small child is dependent on the adult who takes care of him and experiences both pleasure and disappointment in how his needs are met. Happiness creates security, and disappointments develop the child to cope with future disappointments that he will face in relationships during his life. In a family, it is important that the roles are preserved. The parent must care for and control the child more than the child's parent. The parent should take responsibility for the child more than the child's parent. If the parents have an illness or, for example, addiction problems, the roles are easily distorted and the child begins to bear the burden of care and responsibility. In the interaction between a child and an adult, it is important that the parent reacts and responds, because the parent's lack of reaction quickly causes anxiety in the baby. Relationships of youth. Dating relationships, infatuations, falling in love and breakups define our lives from the time we are young. In relationships, disappointments are a part of life because no other person can fulfill all needs and fulfill wishes. A person is whole by himself, there is no other half. Life and well-being cannot be built entirely on someone else. That is why separation and responsibility for one's own well-being is an essential part of a relationship and all human relationships of an adult. What is a good friendship like? Good friendships are usually equal and trusting. Equality means that either can rely on the other. When this reciprocity is not realized, the friendship may become more of a burden than an asset. People have very different expectations regarding interpersonal relationships in the workplace. Someone wants to act professionally and hold discussions only on business matters. The other wants sociability and also wants friendships in the workplace. These different expectations should be recognized and brought up openly. In a good workplace, these different expectations can be discussed. In work relationships, it is important to respect the territory of the other person and your own territory, even if you yourself would like more sociality. In the interaction of interpersonal relationships at the workplace, the same basic things work as in other interpersonal relationships: talk, listen, wait, react. Relationship. In a good relationship, basic needs are fulfilled well enough for both spouses. These basic needs are connection and separation. The need for connection is accompanied by the experience of closeness and mutual neediness. The need for separation is accompanied by the experience of independence and freedom. A relationship often develops from connection through separation to partnership. Most of the problems in a relationship are ultimately related to the fact that one of the basic needs is not fulfilled well enough. In an adult relationship, both parties are responsible for the quality of the interaction. In a good relationship, you talk, listen, and react. In a bad relationship, you stay silent and don't react. A good relationship is safe. It does not involve any kind of mental or physical violence. Fear is already a sign of the presence of emotional violence in a relationship. A good relationship includes the ability to take responsibility for one's own actions. Relationship problems. All human relationships must be taken care of. When you pay attention to the other person in a relationship, you value them and give them good care. Human relationships are complicated. Relationships can go wrong for many reasons. For example, due to different values, communication difficulties, or personality differences. Human relationships can also be put to the test in different stages of life, such as due to peak years and illnesses. At best, human relationships bring joy and security to life. Human relationships generally protect health. A lack of them can cause problems such as depression, isolation, and weakened immunity. Human relationships are at their best relationships where there is a functional interaction, be it friendship, relationship, parenting, or siblings. Good human relationships are based on trust and respect. For listening, support, empathy, and often also love. A relationship does not go well if one is bossy, speaks for the other, and does not listen. On the other hand, the interaction does not work even if the other person closes and withdraws and does not speak at all. Friendship also needs reciprocity and equality. Friendship is often on a different basis than a relationship. A friend may not be said as ugly as a partner or a parent. However, a relationship can't stand any more hostility, barking, or belittling than friendship. This is just sometimes hard to remember. Just like a friendship, a relationship is at its best when the other person is seen and heard as they are. Good relationships are equal. Human relationships are always complicated, but one of the most difficult human relationships is the relationship between a child and a parent. For many, parenting is difficult from start to finish. No matter how much information there is, applying it in practice is not always successful. Parenting a baby is exhausting if there is little sleep and the child has symptoms. Parenting is tough when a child is defiant. Parenthood is also put to the test when the child is a teenager. Children are individuals, interaction is difficult, in everyday situations a lot is done and said that can be regretted afterwards. Like other human relationships, parenting is most likely to succeed if there is mutual respect in the relationship. If there are two or more parents, a compromise should be found between different parenting methods. Negotiation skills are also needed if the parents do not live under the same roof. The most important thing is love for the child. With age, parenting changes. With a small child, the worries are often smaller than with a teenager. Parenting never ends. Your own child is still your own child even in your 50s. Siblings, on the other hand, are often both lovers and enemies. Siblings don't always get along. The relationship can be complicated by jealousy, fighting, and competition. Growing up sharpens the sharpest corners. As an adult, you notice that other relationships come and go, but siblings stay and stay. A childhood sparring partner can become a best friend. The same applies to parents. A terrible mother or father in adolescence is an important supporter as an adult. Siblings are a window to childhood and shared experiences. Siblings can be best friends as adults. Or they don't. The essence of everything is good interaction. Siblings, like any other human relationship, need respect. That they are not seen only through childhood roles but as adult individuals who make their own choices. Good parenting is also based on that. The ability to let the chick fly from the nest on its own wings. The child grows up and follows his own paths wherever he wants. At their best, relationships promote well-being, bring content to life, and give energy. At worst, they damage, limit everyday life, and erode self-esteem. Relationships that drain energy should be ended, as difficult as it may seem. Whether it's parenting, siblings, a relationship, or friendship, none of us can do it alone, but it's easier for everyone to breathe without a bad and stressful relationship. Human relationships change. Well-functioning human relationships are an important resource for each of us. Human relationships change over time. Some relationships get stronger, some break, And at different stages of life, different people are important and close to us. When you are young, your relationship with your parents changes, because you break away from them towards a more independent life. At the same time, the importance of friends and close friends increases. It's good to have friends with whom you can discuss things and spend your free time. Human relationships are important for mental well-being. Harmful relationships can affect our happiness and our perception of life very strongly. That's why it's important to look for people in your life whose character traits make a good, healthy relationship possible. Listed below are qualities that help create a good and balanced human relationship. And since we all want these qualities from our near and dear ones, it is also important to respond in kind. 1. Loyalty. Whether it's friendship, relationship, or family, loyalty is important for a healthy relationship. Everyone is guilty of mistakes and mood swings sometimes, and you can't necessarily always be proud of your own behavior. That's why it's important to be grateful for those people who love us and forgive us for our bad moments. Loyalty should never be taken for granted and is a quality to value in relationships. 2. Respect. It is important to treat other people with respect. Especially close and dear people deserve it, and who doesn't want to be appreciated and respected? No one wants to feel taken for granted, judged, or taken advantage of. We may not always agree with our friends or loved ones, but regardless, respecting them is essential. 3. Unreserved attendance. There is nothing worse than a person who shows up in your life whenever you need something. It's kind of hard to find people in your life who are there even when you need them. However, such people also exist. If you're lucky enough to already have a friend like this, stick with them. 4. Reliability. You have to be able to trust a friend, especially if you tell them something completely confidential. 5. Sincere interest. Creating a good, stable human relationship requires the ability to listen to what others have to say. Focusing on the other person conveys to them that you value them and that they can actually talk to someone who cares. People who really listen to our problems and help us through difficult times share our lives on a much deeper level than those we can't talk to. 6. Keeping promises. It is important that our close friends keep their promises. Of course, there are times when you have to cancel an appointment. However, if your friend repeatedly makes fun of you, it might indicate something. So if your friend promises to meet you somewhere, you should be able to trust that, and they can trust you. And like Christ or Buddha.